Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Andy, the Lakers get arguably their best, most inspiring win of the year, but it comes at a cost as Anthony Davis once again goes down, this time with an ankle injury. Also, LeBron James calls Aaron Donald the best defensive player he's ever seen. Is that because he never saw you play? We'll talk about all that next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays. We get this thing up for you as early as we can, wherever you get your podcasts, however you get your podcasts, always free, never behind a paywall. So make sure you make this your first listen and another Locked On podcast your second listen. Today's episode brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. All right, so this game Wednesday is sort of like the Lakers season in a nutshell. It's like you're just not allowed to have anything nice. Like you can't. Like this was a game the Lakers got off to a great start. Anthony Davis is playing very well. 7 of 9 from the floor, 17 points before halftime, looking good, looking strong. After a couple, would you call it, Andy, mediocre games at best?
I'd call a couple games that were troubling. We talked, Brian, about how we were concerned that Anthony Davis was backsliding into the form that we were seeing through a lot of the season before he got injured, where he was obviously playing too well to be playing badly, but he was not playing at the level that everybody thinks Anthony Davis is capable of at the top of his game, or just frankly, the Lakers need him to be at if they were trying to reach their goals.
Right. So, this is all part of Wednesday's 106-101 win over the Utah Jazz. To mention the actual score of the game.
Make your second listen, by the way, Locked On Jazz. You can listen to our boss, David Locke.
Get all weepy and crying because
sad.
His Utah Jazz didn't win the basketball game. Oh.
That was Brian, David, just in case you heard that part.
I mean, he has access to the video, and I mean, he can look it up if he wants.
He's a busy man. He's only going to do one or the other.
The Utah Jazz babies didn't win the game. Yeah.
That feels uncalled for.
Totally.
Frankly, a little.
What are they? Like 17 games in front of the Lakers in the standings?
Brian, it feels uncalled for and frankly a little reckless.
Hey, I'm living on the edge. So in this win, so now all of a sudden, like the Lakers, they get off to a good start. Anthony Davis is playing well, and he goes down with, I'm not gonna lie, a really bad looking ankle injury. I'm not a doctor. X-rays, they said, were negative. LeBron did reveal that AD left the game on crutches, or at least when he saw him was on crutches. I think that was at halftime. They're going to do an MRI on Thursday, and presumably, I guess, could release more information. He's definitely out for a little bit. His ankle, Andy, was like the logo of his shoe, while his leg was still straight in the air, was like on the ground. It was 90 degrees. It was ugly.
Ugly does not do what happened justice, Brian. This was straight up stomach churning, disgusting. I mean, like really, like that's one of those things where there should have been like a parental advisory moment. Like, they should have actually paused the game in real time and said, clear the children out. They don't need to see this.
I judge every ankle injury on the Robbie Alomar slides into second base. Remember that a bunch of years ago? When, his ankle basically was like ended up by his shoulder. it was grotesque. This wasn't that. Like Anthony Davis's ankle was still attached to the bottom of his, where it's supposed to be. But as far as sprained ankles go, it was bad. He stepped on Rudy Gobert's foot, and that's just one of the worst ways for this to happen. And so, everybody was talking about this, like it's not like a 2-day thing or 3. It could be out for a little bit. And you're just like, I mean, that sound you heard around LA was a bunch of Lakers fans shooting their televisions Elvis style. It's like, I feel like at this point, 80, the basketball gods are just like, is nobody listening to what we're trying to do? Like how many people have to get hurt for like in the process of us scuttling the Lakers season? We've made it abundantly clear what we're trying to do here, and people aren't listening. And now Anthony Davis has to get hurt again because you people on your stupid podcast keep talking about how there's hope and how there's a chance that they could still. No, we're trying to keep all that from happening, and nobody's listening to us, and we're just going to keep smiting people until they do.
Yeah, these basketball gods, Brian, are very Old Testament.
It's very Old Testament.
These are the very vengeful gods. They punish you for everything. They don't necessarily even explain why they do it, and they don't necessarily reward you if you're good people. Like if you're good people, you just get to sort of live your life, and that's it. But if you do anything that somehow offends these, quite frankly, thin-skinned basketball gods who are, again, Old Testament wrath of basketball gods, woo! They are mad about something.
Quick side note, like back in the days when I was a teacher before we hit it big in sports media, one of the classes that I took over for like a few weeks, they were teaching the Bible as literature. We talked about it, whatever, and I had never really sat down to read the Old Testament. Like, damn, Old Testament God is not here for your feelings, like he did not. Old Testament God has zero bedside manner. It is like, I mean, damn. So like you're ready to just like shoot the television Elvis style, and then the Lakers fall behind, and I'm sitting there like, okay, well, fine. It's like
they're shell shocked. Like Anthony Davis looks like he could be out for weeks. Again, this injury looks severe, and
hopefully not. Hopefully, at least the timing of the Lakers don't play again until a week from Friday. If it's a 3-week injury, 10 days of that, the Lakers wouldn't be playing anyway. So there is at least that.
But this is a season that is already hanging on by a thread. The Lakers are the 9 seed right now. It is damn near impossible. Frank Vogel, though, acknowledged either before or after the game, I don't remember which one, but in so many words that it was going to be damn hard for them to get out of the play-in tournament. Like, maybe they can get up to the 7 seed if they really start to crank it into gear, but
certainly the 8 is still attainable. And a night like Wednesday is really critical for being able to keep that 8 spot. And 8 is definitely better than 9. If you're 8, you only have to win once. And if you're 9, you got to win twice to get to the big boy playoffs.
Right. But the point being, though, like, everything already feels like it is hanging in a really precarious balance right now. So seeing Anthony Davis go down, like on the heels of that Golden State loss where the Lakers actually played well, and there's been a lot of talk that's feeling increasingly believable about these guys starting to collectively enter a better headspace that, just knowing this is the team and we need to make this thing work somehow, and everybody, for better or for worse, can relax.
Strong game Saturday in San Francisco. I'm used to saying in Oakland against Golden State, but nope, you got it in San Francisco now against Golden State. And they got off to a strong start in this one and 2 until AD got hurt, and they fall behind, and you think it's over. But Andy, remember those? You remember back in the 80s and 90s when Hulk Hogan would be in the ring, and somebody would have him in a sleeper hold, and they have him in a sleeper hold, and he looks like he's out. He looks like he's sleeping. Yeah. He's about to go down. And they do the thing. They raise the arm once. They raise the arm twice. They raise the arm the 3rd time, and it's almost down. It's almost down, Andy. He's out. He's out. But then it comes back up, and the finger, it's up. It's out. And all of a sudden, Hulk Hogan comes back to life and throttles whoever it is that was trying to sleep him out. That was the Lakers on Wednesday night. It was inspiring. It was everything that you're talking about in terms of feeling good about themselves. And I have to ask you, does this win on Wednesday, the way they won it, but without Anthony Davis for probably a little while, does it have significance for this team in ways that we all hope it could? We'll talk about that next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Bet Online Football. now over for the season, but basketball is still in full swing for both pro and college hoops. So for all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right down to Olympic coverage and information. So head to the website today or use your mobile device. Learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the games start.
So we'll talk a little bit more about this before the show's over, but you mentioned football being over. Do you think the Lakers win on Wednesday night if Aaron Donald decides he's just too drunk and decides I'm going to stay home and sleep it off? Because goddamn, LeBron looked like he was there purely to impress Aaron Donald and win one for AD, the other AD.
Brian, how do I feel about it? During the second half of the game, I tweeted out at Cam Brothers, LeBron is playing like a guy who really wants to impress Aaron Donald. Then LeBron went just absolutely ballistic in the fourth quarter, had 15 of his 33 points in the fourth, really sparked that comeback. Big moments from Russell Westbrook, big contributions from Austin Reaves, Malik Monk, but really that fourth and
that was
victory.
That was a LeBron saying, I'm going to win.
And then afterwards, though, LeBron made a beeline to Aaron Donald. They embrace in a hug, and I retweeted my own tweet. I told you he was looking to impress. Look at them embracing right there. This was all about just wanting to show out champion to champion, local god to local god. There is no exaggeration. Like right now, I know we've discussed over the last few podcasts, like the impression right now that money may be affecting certain decisions for the Lakers and luxury tax implications, all that stuff. Genie Bus, I'm telling you right now, go get Aaron Donald season tickets so he is inside Crypto.com arena every single game. That thing will pay for itself.
They only have 10 more home games. Just like whatever the prorated package is, just do it.
And great seats. Make sure LeBron can see him. It's very important. Like, don't put him in the 300s.
How about DeAndre Jordan's seat?
Sure.
I mean, he's not going to play any less, than DJ. I was also thinking when I saw the picture of LeBron hugging Aaron Donald like that, if I tried to hug Aaron Donald, I don't think my arms would actually get to his back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's so wide. I don't think I could hug Aaron Donald in any meaningful way. Which is probably fine with him, by the way.
Well, it's extremely important that if you or I go in for that hug with Aaron Donald, like it has to be a bro hug, even if it feels presumptive on our part to be doing something like that. Because, we've both met Aaron Donald. We've talked to him a little bit, but we don't know him.
No.
But we are physically incapable of doing an actual embrace. It has to be the more familiar bro hug, or else it just won't work.
Plus, if he hugged us, it could kill us.
There's that possibility.
He could like Lenny with the mouse in
Of Mice and Men.
Of Mice and Men, right? When he crushes the mouse to death, that would be Aaron Donald unwittingly crushing us to death with a hug.
Sometimes landing the plane is hard. Save it for Locked on Steinbeck, Brian.
5 days a week, wherever you get your podcasts, never behind a paywall.
There's your second listen.
Oh, Locked on Steinbeck. Sure. I mean, why not? Guy wrote some good books. All right, but anyway, I'll ask you the question. Is this a game that because for Thursday's show we talked about or Wednesday show, what could a good performance against Utah mean? Like, it's obviously going to be difficult for them in the standings and all this other kind of stuff, but if they come out and they win, could you go into the break feeling differently about this team than you otherwise might have, especially when combined with a good showing against Golden State over the weekend? The good feelings are obviously tempered by what happened to AD, but I'll ask the question. Does this make you feel better about the Lakers going into the break and what at least could be possible for them down the stretch over the last 24 games?
I do. Look, better is a relative term for everything that's gone on with this season and how disappointing it's been on like 1,000 different levels. And I want to make it clear because this is something that the Locked On Lakers YouTube comment section, which by the way, we are always grateful to hear from everybody and we genuinely appreciate it, but something that pisses them off all the time when it feels to them at all that we are ever even slightly inferring that a win implies the team having turned a corner. I am not saying that the team has turned a corner based off this. So if you're about to yell, go direct it somewhere else. But what I will say is, relatively speaking to where this team's headspace was, and just the idea of, okay, they are flailing about under 500. And if they take a couple more losses into the All-Star break, which we thought was possible because they were playing Golden State and Utah, and those are both quality opponents. A, what does it mean for Frank Vogel? But B, what does it mean for this team's resolve just in them treating the next 20-something games like they actually matter? Because as much as I know they don't want to like miss the play-in because that becomes truly embarrassing, if you are a team that knows you are struggling just to play well enough to maintain a 9 seed, you know that whatever happens in the play-in, it ain't going to last long. And that makes it very difficult to stay motivated. Mm-hmm. And these last few games and hearing these guys talk about practices, and frankly, it seemed like practice in and of itself, 2 in a row, has actually paid some pretty big dividends for these guys just being organized and feeling like everybody is rowing in the same direction. Does this win make me feel like things are solved? Hell no.
merrily.
No, but I mean, here's the thing. It was going to be hard anyway. With AD out for however long that's going to be, it just got even harder. But I will say this team now feels more like they're actually into the idea of a challenge with it being hard than they seemed like a week ago. And that does say something.
It does. Here, I will say this about this team. Maybe this is something we can talk about in the next segment. I don't think against Phoenix. I don't think against Golden State. I don't think against Memphis even now at this point, given how well the Grizzlies have played. And I don't think against Utah, the Lakers would be favored in a series. But as cliche as it sounds, don't make that face. Yes, they would not be. Our folks at Bet Online would not favor the Lakers. And, despite the fact that people bet up the Lakers, or whatever, people aren't that dumb, are they? But I will say this, like they'd probably be as frightening a 7 seed or an 8 seed, I think, as you could conjure if all three of those, if AD and LeBron are both there and playing well. Like, that is a unique challenge that you don't normally get in the first round of the playoffs. And, it's an echo of what happened last year where the Lakers, for everything that went wrong, still had an excellent chance of winning their first round series against a team that eventually went to the finals. Phoenix is better this year. And I don't think they'd be scared. I think teams will be geeked up beyond belief to drive a stake through the heart of this team. But at the same time, to your point, and we'll break off this, if the Lakers have confidence in a playoff series, if they get there and they're playing reasonably well, they have punchers. LeBron and AD, if they're playing at their height, have a puncher's chance against anyone, right? So yeah, I mean that's my thinking of it, and we can talk about it. We can talk about the comfort level. We can talk about Russell Westbrook a little bit too, because comfortable Russ, and he looked better on Saturday. He looked better on Wednesday. Also makes a significant difference with this team down the stretch. We'll do all that next.
Lock on Lakers brought to you by rockauto.com. Okay, with the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models out there, it is impossible to stock all the parts you would need in a traditional chain storefront. And why would you spend 30%, 50%, 100% more for the exact same auto parts at a chain store or new car dealership anyway, dummy? You can get it for far less at rockauto.com. For example, Honda Odyssey fuel pump, $353 from a chain store. It's only $216 from Rock Auto. They are a family business. They've been serving auto part customers online for 20 years. And whether it's for your classic or a daily driver, you can get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck and write Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
Yeah, I mean, people do, you're right, need to remember, like, everything has the caveat of, like, look, the Lakers are in serious trouble and they're going to face a major uphill battle. And for them to win this year in significant ways, get to a finals and all that stuff, would kind of upend most of what we think we know as a collective basketball community or whatever about the importance of the regular season and what needs to happen and continuity,
Brian,
and talent level and all that stuff.
It would not upend most of it. It would upend all of it and everything we will ever think in the future about a regular season.
Right.
All of it.
But in the you know, the amount of talent that you have to have around stars and all this other
This
stuff.
is like time and space shattering. If this team goes on with everything we've seen to win the championship, it will just completely reinvent the idea of the regular season. It might cancel the regular season in terms of just all of us deciding the hell are we doing for 82 games.
That's cancel culture that I'd actually be interested in exploring. Just skipping straight to the playoffs. But that said, I don't want to do 3.5 months of, well, screw it, it's over. Like that, there is still a chance that they could do stuff. And you just understand what we're talking about here. And a lot of this is related to any potential that they have is related to Russell Westbrook kind of allowing the Lakers to fulfill the vision that they had going back to the preseason of being so good because of their 3 stars so that it can paper over a lot of their deficiencies. And you go to Saturday's game and you go to Wednesday's game, and Russ looked much more comfortable defensively as a group. They were certainly much better, and Westbrook didn't get in the way of that, if nothing else. And long way to go, but maybe getting past the deadline and just making it so, hey, you're going to be traded to Houston for John Wall is not a question anymore, at least until the exit interviews. Maybe that makes a difference for us. He's a guy who needs to feel better about himself to play well.
Well, he's a guy that is very, very creature comfort oriented. Like Russell Westbrook has had a reputation for a long time as maybe the most regimented player in the entire NBA. He is exceptionally like OCD when it comes to, I need my schedule laid out exactly the same way every single time. And that is one of the things, for better, I guess, in the moment in Oklahoma City, and perhaps worse for Russ's time outside of OKC, the Thunder catered to this. Like they really, really leaned into the idea of, okay, this guy needs everything just so, and we are going to make sure that we do that. And since leaving the Thunder, it has been more difficult to do that for Russ because there are other stars there. It's not his franchise. And to be candid, he hasn't played at the level where you would revolve everything around him. But he's still a guy that needs to feel comfortable. He's somebody that needs to feel like he truly understands, what he's doing out there and playing. We say this all the time, playing like Russ. Like what does Russ being Russ mean in these circumstances? Like he talked after the game that he's pleased with the pace going up the last few games. He talked about the wings have been running more. He said there's been more cutting, including himself.
Yeah, they've gotten back a little bit too, and we saw it in the first half before AD got hurt. A little more actions with him and Davis, with Russ and them in the pick and roll, or Russ off ball setting a screen and doing. They're doing a little bit better job of keeping him busy, for lack of a better term, when he doesn't have the ball.
Among the biggest disappointments with seeing this thing happen with Anthony Davis is, AD and Russ, before AD got hurt the first time, we're actually starting to develop a pretty good two-man chemistry.
Yeah.
And then AD got hurt. He was out for a while, came back, that hadn't really been as present since then for a variety of reasons, sometimes Russ, sometimes AD. This game, the two of them were playing so well off each other and starting to look like that again. But of course, because this season is this season, that gets interrupted again.
Oh, yeah.
There was a moment too, though, Brian, that like for me I think it's really worth pointing out with Russ if you're looking for like sort of positive developments, things that you will not know just from looking at a box score or maybe even certain highlights. But late in the fourth quarter, Austin Reaves hit a huge three to put them up by 4, maybe like a minute left, something like that. And LeBron was the guy that got the assist, but the hockey assist went to Russ. And it came off this sequence where Russ had the ball in the corner and Rudy Gobert is guarding him. And you can see that Gobert is backed off him, in part, I'm sure, because, you do have to worry about Russ driving past you, but also you are daring Russ to take that shot. And like 2 or 3 possessions before that, Gobert had been switched onto, and this worked out poorly, LeBron at the top of the arc. And in this case, he was purely backed off LeBron because he knows he's got to have a lot of space or else LeBron's just going to blow past him. And LeBron hit that three. He hit a huge three at that moment. And Russ could have easily been tempted to take the bait in that moment where he is just being offered a three on a silver platter. But instead, he ends up driving and he kicks the ball to LeBron, who kicks it to Reaves. And just the discipline and sense of focus and purpose that Russ had in that moment and the connectivity that he had with the other 4 guys there, that to me felt like a microcosm of what we've been starting to see more of from Russ. I'm not saying it's all
I don't want to give him too much credit for not taking a bad 3-pointer, but I mean, yeah, you are correct. And when given the opportunity to take the 3 or drive,
I mean, we've certainly seen him take some bad 3-pointers before.
You have, but like, shot responsibility and shot selection has actually been, of all the things Russ has done this year, has actually for me been relatively low on the list.
I don't disagree, but you can't tell me that you weren't worried at all.
Oh no, I was no. I was sitting there on the couch going, no.
Right, that's my point.
Right. I mean, just because you're always worried about that because it's such a bad option. Before we go, it is worth, because we will have plenty of time. Well, it's Friday's show and into next week. Even with some fun stuff that we've got planned for people to talk about kind of where they are and what the rest of the season is going to look like, these final 24 games. It was really interesting to hear LeBron after the game. We talked about how geeked he was to be around Aaron Donald and win this one for the other AD and all that stuff. If somebody, I'm sure, has it posted on your favorite social media site, his kind of explanation of why he was so impressed by Aaron Donald and why he thinks he's so good. And he talked for like 2 minutes about how Donald is like the best defensive player he's ever seen. And it is always interesting to hear guys who are as good at LeBron as LeBron is and as accomplished as LeBron kind of get googly over other people, other athletes, over other accomplished people. I guess in part because they really, like, LeBron knows how hard it is to be Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of respect than I think we have for Donald, watching him play, even while both of us might say he's the best defensive player any of us have ever seen and maybe the best ever.
Yeah. You know what it reminded me of? When Kobe won his Oscar, like when he was up on the stage.
By the way, that will never be a kind of just an incredibly wonderful and weird sentence. Remember when Kobe won his Oscar?
Sure.
But that's just cool. I like thinking of that.
Yeah. But when he won that Oscar, you could tell, like seeing him either on the stage or like, there was footage of him at, one of the parties waiting as his Oscar was getting engraved. Like that was even a surreal moment of achievement for Kobe. Like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
I just won a damn Oscar. And this is a guy that has achieved everything you possibly could in his, like, he is truly one of the greatest, not just basketball players, like he is one of the greatest athletes to ever compete professionally in
Absolutely.
any sport.
No question.
And still, though, this moment of being surrounded by so much artistic greatness, and Kobe was somebody that really, truly appreciated that stuff. You know, I mean, like there were a few times I talked with Kobe about movies. Like he loved that stuff. And what's funny about that, though, is that all these stars in that room, you know, all these people at the, like, you know, the height of their professions, some of them, you know, awarded that night, they were all starstruck by seeing Kobe.
Oh, damn right they were.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's sort of the cyclical effect that you often will see in a city like LA, as used to seeing celebrities in different fields as they get, frankly, we get, you know, and
Mhm.
we've been fortunate enough to interview a lot of great athletes, a lot of great artists, actors, musicians, authors, people like that. There still can be a moment of like, God damn, that's blank. And even for people of greatness like them, it can still be a pretty marvelous sight.
Yeah, it was just a look. I mean, people are fans of stuff. And then I think once so many of these athletes now are able to stretch themselves in other ways.
Yeah.
And so you start to learn how difficult it is to be a filmmaker, how difficult it is
Yeah.
to be a writer, how difficult, like, guys do that stuff. And, because the rest of us kind of know how difficult and ridiculous it is to be LeBron James. Like you get to, 6 years old and you're like, and all of us pretend to be our favorite athlete in our favorite sport or whatever. And even then you're probably like, yeah, I don't know if I can do that. And certainly by the time you're like 10, you know the difference between yourself and one of these guys. But like these people are so cosmically good at what they do. They are so ultra elite that you don't think of them as being bowled over by another person. We don't, say it's a similar thing. Like when we wonder, like, why are you so concerned about what people say about you on social media? You're so, as if like this one part of them is everything about them. Like like they stop having human feelings or
Yeah.
human emotions because they're dominant at basketball. That they can't have the same kind of insecurities as the rest of us have. I still do wonder why Kevin Durant is bothered by eggs on Twitter, but you understand what I'm getting at. So it was a cool moment to see LeBron express that kind of not just admiration as an athlete, but also just kind of fanboying out on
Yeah.
Donald, who is
Yeah.
worth that kind of adoration because holy hell is he good.
Yes, he is.
All right, so a lot to cover as the Lakers get into the break. We'll do that. I got some, like I said, some fun stuff coming up for people probably next week before the Lakers resume play. Yeah, so we'll see everybody on Friday. Remember, subscribe to Locked On Lakers on YouTube. Have a good night.